Hello and welcome to the final episode of Talking Tildas. That's it, the end of the road. The Women's World Cup final takes place Monday morning, 1 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and it is the United States for the third time in a row against the Netherlands, the current European champions. It is going to be an amazing spectacle, sold out, blockbuster, the biggest Women's World Cup final in history. Joining us, as always, is our panel, Michelle Morris, Christina Trajceska, and Rose Valente. Guys, we've reached the end of the road, finally.
Woo!
It's been one wild ride. What do you guys think? You see these two teams, United States, Netherlands. What's the first thing that hits you?
Go the orange team.
Go the orange
Go
team.
Netherlands.
Are you flying stars and stripes, or are you an orange?
Orange. I'm an orange.
I think we're all oranges,
Yep.
unfortunately.
I love the fruit, so, gotta go for orange.
We'll be previewing that Women's World Cup a bit later. We're also going to be talking about the possibility of an expanded Women's World Cup, which was floated around by FIFA today, expanding it to 32 teams, which is the current format for the Men's World Cup. Currently it's at 24. Guys, immediate thoughts, expanding the Women's World Cup. What do you think? We have a problem, 13-0, 10-0, these kinds of results. Do you think that expanding it might perhaps just increase that golfing class? Do you think that's a problem?
Personally, I'm not too sure what to say in that sense because, I don't know how the other countries are going. But when you do look at, some of your Thailands and such, you kind of worry that maybe it's a little bit too soon to go into the 32-team format and maybe one more World Cup might be okay as it is. And see where, but yeah, it's hard, I guess, it's hard for me to say because I don't really know where other countries are at.
Do you think that's because of performances from these countries?
What do you mean? The ones...
As in, so countries like Thailand, other like Germany, the last World Cup, the 10-0
women's football
victory.
sits at the moment, it's how it currently stands is that it's whatever federations are putting money into this and putting resources into women's football. So if you've got countries around the world that aren't putting the resources, into like, you got your, I guess Italy did well, obviously USA, Netherlands, Sweden, England, they've got good teams, but then if you've got all the others, if like Zimbabwe, I don't know, it's the first country that came to my head, qualified, but like they're not putting in resources, well then they're just going to go down 13-0. So it's...
That's what I'm thinking as
well.
I agree. I think, there's... The women's game is still growing, but we can't push it too far yet because otherwise then you're just going to see... we look at this World Cup and we think there are some teams who are in there for the first time, and scoring their first World Cup goals. So it's like, at that point, if they're thinking, the next World Cup we're going to have 32 teams, it's just going to be a disaster because you're going to have the same, 3 teams that end up, at the top level, and then you have everyone else kind of just floating around. There's not enough money that's going in yet into other countries and like in the federations, supporting the women's football. So it's like you need to make sure that each country is kind of established almost as a women's footballing nation.
And it's just starting to peak. Well, I guess probably last World Cup it was starting to peak, and it's still going up. Women's football as a whole. So each country within their own time are putting in the money, the resources, everything they need to.
Chrissy, are you worried about a lack of quality?
Yeah, that's another thing that I'm quite worried with. I can agree with both Michelle and Rosie here saying that it's still growing, it's at its peak, and if you fix something that ain't broke, it's just going to make it worse as is. Rosie's right. I think we should give it probably one more World Cup or two more World Cups, let it grow a little more. Otherwise, it's just going to be...
It might be a little bit ugly.
As much as I love women's football and I'd like to see more teams play, you can't force something.
You get the feeling that FIFA's just trying to capitalise on the excitement a little bit.
Absolutely.
Spread the love a little bit.
Which is good, you want FIFA to, make money off of it so that way they'll put more money into it. So it works both ways, but at the moment you have to think realistically, like there's not many countries that have a women's team that could probably do well in a World Cup. So
yeah, I think if you're talking about adding. I think you could expand it, but adding 8 teams, I think, is a lot. Even you've got Jamaica, who doesn't have even a semi-professional league. Even Italy's league is just turning semi-professional. You know, even in a 24-team league, 24-team World Cup, you know, you're already seeing, you know, hitting towards the bottom of the barrel in terms of what we have on the international stage.
And we'll lose competitiveness. You know, it'll just. You know.
And that's the worry for the men's World Cup too. You know, World Cup qualifying, you just lose a bit of a shine off that excitement. Yeah. Another conversation that has been going on, especially for Megan Rapinoe, leading the charge on this debate, is scheduling 3 finals at the same time: Women's World Cup, the AFCON Gold Cup, and the Copa America final. We were talking about this just before we began filming. Is this a necessary to be upset about this? I mean, they are spread out, but do you think FIFA's just trying to sort of combust everything into one go, so it's just a big festival of football? I mean that excites us, right? That excites the neutrals.
I mean, it's fun. You know, imagine calling in sick for the day and then being like, I'm just gonna watch football all day long.
Yeah.
You know? And in that sense, like, you know, as a neutral, like someone who's not at the places, like, it'll be fun. But for me, it's very difficult. Obviously, half Peruvian, half Chilean. Peru is in the Copa America final. And so I give, you know, my attention to that and to that competition in general, because that's a part of me, you know. And the Women's World Cup, you know, while I am a woman and I love football, and my countries were out, you know, and once that happens, you kind of lose interest, you know. And I think that happens for a lot of people. You know, we lose interest when the one that we want to win doesn't, and they're gone, you know. So it's just hard, and you know, so I think, it wasn't a smart idea to have them all on the same day, but it's also probably not as big of an issue as...
It's not a terrible idea.
I don't think I think it's not as big of an issue as she might be, you know, projecting it to be.
Well, the discussion is around, should it be a standalone event? You know, considering that the men's one is, should the women's one be as well? But I think in terms of the calendar, it, you know, if it's a year after, you know, there are tournaments going on every year in winter here in Australia. Do you think that the Women's World Cup should be a standalone event?
Yeah, I think it deserves to be a standalone event. It, of course, once again, like we said to the conversation before, that the Women's World Cup is still growing, but I still think it should be a standalone event.
I think they've proved it this year.
Definitely.
That it definitely should be a standalone event. It's brought, I mean, the ratings in so many countries have just skyrocketed, and the attendance has been fantastic.
Well, that brings us to the question of, has the other tournaments being on at the same time, has it really taken the shine off this Women's World Cup? I mean, we're seeing record viewership, record attendances. I mean, you know, we're talking... I think, you know, obviously the women's game, it wants its own stage and it wants to be front and centre, but I actually don't think that the other tournaments being on has had that much of an impact.
I don't think so either. I think you really have to think about it from each country, though, because... So I have friends from Peru, and they were saying that you wouldn't have ever known that a Women's World Cup was on, just because, one, Peru, the women's team is not in the World Cup. And it's just, women's football in that country is not big, you know, so you wouldn't have known. But obviously here it's massive, and in England it's massive because, you know, our countries are in it, you know, they might have got kicked out, whatever, but, you know, but it was big for us, you know, but in other countries you wouldn't have known because it probably wasn't a big deal because their country isn't in it and their country might not ever be in it.
Conversation I think that we're going to be having for quite a long time. We will be right back after this quick break.
Perfect.
Welcome back to Talking Tildas. Well, the big one, the Women's World Cup final, is Monday, 1 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. The United States versus Netherlands, a blockbuster. Guys, these teams are full of amazing talent, absolutely quality players. Chrissy, one of your favourites from the American team?
Tobin Heath.
Tobin Heath. Do you think she's
Do
you think she's a match winner?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think she's been as good as she could be at this World Cup?
No, she hasn't. There's definitely been parts of the tournament where I thought that she could have given more. she wasn't able to show too much as she usually does, but either at Portland Thorns or at friendlies with the US women's national team. Maybe in the final she'll be able to show it all in one game.
Alex Morgan is back in the
Why
goal.
did you look at me?
Because I'm coming to you.
You rewind the tape, so just everybody
coming
would
to
just
you.
shoot straight to Michelle.
Everybody just look at Michelle and just Alex Morgan's back.
Triggered.
Well, I mean, we thought she had a bit of an injury cloud, but you know she came back against England with a goal, cheeky celebration. Do you think the United States runs as well as it can without Morgan in that team?
Yeah, probably.
They're all
frustrates
world-class.
me so much. Just because they would suck, but they don't. So
Well, we can tell which side of the fence we're on over here at Talking Tildas. Rose, you look at this match.
I do.
You look.
Yeah.
You can see it.
I can
You can
see
see it in
Certainly.
front of you.
Yep.
It's in front of your face.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you sit on this side of the fence?
Where do I sit? On the side of the fence? As in who?
Yes.
As in who I'm going for?
Yes.
Well, I'm going for the Netherlands.
The Netherlands.
Yes. What a silly question to ask.
Where are we?
The hate for the... I'm getting worried.
No,
the
it's
hate
not
for
hate.
the United...
It's the
it's not
unenjoyment of their arrogance. But it's like
Yeah.
they're like that with everything. This isn't just Women's World Cup. This is the
it's like in The Simpsons when Homer goes to Brazil
yeah.
and the lifeguard's like, "Oi, Americans," and he's like, "How did you know?" And he's got that T-shirt that says, "We own you."
Exactly, and then they pissed off Australia as well
Yeah.
in The Simpsons. You know.
So
It happens.
you want the Netherlands to win, but do you think that they have what it takes?
Yes, I do. I think they're an excellent team.
Who's a key player for the Netherlands? Medema, Van der Sonden?
I'm still team Lieke Martens.
Mm.
I've always been, although Medina's absolutely excellent as well, of course. And you got all the key ones. But yeah, I really enjoy Martens.
She's actually got a bit of an injury cloud. She trained separately from the team, I think it was yesterday, so I'm not sure if it's going to be... if she'll be starting the match. There is a bit of a cloud over that. What kind of impact do you think that'll have, Martin's not starting for the Netherlands?
I think it won't be too much of an impact. Yes, it will cause a little bit of a tough time for the Netherlands, but they've proven themselves throughout the whole competition. They've basically flown past majority of the teams that they've come up against.
Considering that they're European champions, I mean, a lot of people didn't actually pick the Netherlands to actually make it this far. Are you guys surprised by the Netherlands?
Sort of. They went under the radar. Well, apart from the US, because every time they win, you know, the Netherlands,
Yeah.
they're just, oh, cool, they've won a game. They're up to the next round. Oh, next round. Everyone's just like,
They
Go,
do it so
Netherlands,
easily.
They were so quiet,
Very quiet.
Yeah.
compared to.
It's like Leo Messi
They're-
and Ronaldo. Like, you know, got one always talking, the other one just silently making his way through the ranks.
Were you surprised by the Netherlands?
Not really. I think they're such a gun team, and I think earlier I was like, yeah, they'll probably, go on to win the whole thing.
The United States, their quarterfinal and their semi-final, I mean, against France and England, it looked like there was just no way that they could get past the United States defence. I mean, it looks so rock solid. Are there any weaknesses in this, the United States team? I mean, obviously they've conceded goals, but man,
I
when they
think-
get going, I mean, it looks like they're just impenetrable.
I can't see any.
I think their technique to drinking tea could be improved on the field.
It just looked like she was smoking weed.
Yeah,
Is there-
exactly. She didn't.
I do better.
Is there something in the tea?
Is there something in the tea?
That's
Are
the
you
question.
saying that there's
Performance?
No,
in
no,
there?
I
they're
hope
your
it's
words.
tea.
They're your words. They're not my words.
I do think that so when you look at that US team, they're not very technical, I suppose. Like, they're good at what they do, but they're very, very attacking sort of thing. Whereas I feel like the Netherlands and you look at these European teams, they're a bit more technical and a bit more possession heavy. They want to keep possession of the ball much more than the US does. The US is
big gung ho.
yeah, attack.
Could that frustrate the US? That's what I'm thinking. If Netherlands keep so much possession and they play tactical, will that piss the US off and that will be
I don't
their
think it'll piss
downfall?
them off, but I do think it'll frustrate them in the sense that if they can't have the ball, they can't play to their game plan, which
Yeah.
is just in general
Yeah.
anybody's game plan.
But then again, the United States will be putting a lot of pressure on, so they're going to have a
Absolutely.
high press game. So in a way, you look at the defensive structure of the Netherlands, you kind of think that this is the worst team that the United States could have come up against. But at the same time, it kind of plays into their hands as well a little bit. You look at some of the matches, despite if they're totally on top, say like a Thailand or a Chile game, they are usually standing off the ball and inviting pressure and ready to pounce on a counter-attack. They have rapid players.
They're good on the break. But then I think when it comes opposite and another team is like counter-attacking them, they do seem to like get shaken.
Well, it's going to be an absolute blockbuster. The Parc Olympique Lyonnais, 1 a.m. Monday, Australian Eastern Standard Time. We will be right back with some more in-depth predictions for the Women's World Cup final right after this break.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. I'm Christina from the Ladies League, and as you can see, I'm wearing the Ladies League polo. It's quite breathable, lightweight, comfortable, perfect for the Saturday and Sunday football matches.
And if you'd like to look like this under 14s coach, go to theladiesleague.com and grab a shirt for yourself. Welcome back to Talking Tildas, where we're going to go around the panel and get our predictions finally for the Women's World Cup final. Chrissy, scorers perhaps?
Scores, God help me.
The Netherlands to win, you said before?
Every time I predict, it goes wrong.
We keep doing this, I don't know why.
Yeah, but I'm
gonna do something, because I'm going to say something, put out to the universe, but keep what I really think inside, so no one knows, and that way I'll tweet it out later. But I'm going to say 2-1 US.
To the United States.
Yeah.
2-1 Netherlands.
2-1 Netherlands.
We're going to go to 2-2. And then in extra time, the Netherlands are going to take it home with 1 goal, 3-2.
I'm going to say the United States are going to win the World Cup. 5-1. Yeah.
Jesus
5-1.
Let's go for that one. Why not?
Jesus. Wow.
Why not?
I hope you
Let's
would have
give it
bet
a
on
go.
for that. That's going to be good odds.
No, I'm not a betting man. But if I was, I'd win it all the time.
No, you
So, Netherlands favourites. Do you think they're the favourites?
No.
No, I think the US are favourites.
Yeah, US
are
To suit the
favourites.
underdogs.
Yeah.
But it is going to be one hell of a ride. And what has also been one hell of a ride has been this show, Talking Tildas. We want to thank you all, our audience, for chipping in, watching us, putting up with all our crap. Whether it's sharing our episodes, engaging with us, sending in questions on Twitter or Facebook. I want to thank you so much for being along with us for this fantastic ride. I also want to thank you guys, you three, our fantastic panel, because without you three, this doesn't work and this doesn't happen. Michelle Morris, Chrissy Trajceska, and Rosa Valente. Guys, thank you so much for having absolutely unbelievable experience on Talking Tildas.
Oh, and thank you. Thank you for hosting. Thank you for doing everything you do in your spare time. The amount of research that Rupe's put into this for every single show, honestly, is absolutely amazing. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, considering that the Matildas went out in the round of 16, we had a lot of time to think. I think a question that's been bouncing around the grounds a lot has been, what has this World Cup taught us? And what has it taught Australia? And I can't shake that it has taught us where we really are. Now, we know that the Matildas fell short of expectations in France. There's no doubt about that. But what we have to ask ourselves is, do we really have a plan in place to improve and maintain a standard on the world stage? The white paper that was released in June quickly said that the objective in the short term for the women's game was expansion of the W League and a full home and away season. It's a sensible objective. We would be naive to think that the sustainability of this sport didn't hinge on the success of the men's competition. Independence is a big step forward for that, and it's only necessary that we focus on pulling it out of the doldrums. But the thing about short-term thinking for the women's game is that it catches up on you very quickly. It's not enough anymore. The World Cup, what it did and what it taught us, was it solidified the popularity of the Matildas. Not just as a badge of honour to wear, but also as a blueprint to forge a path forward to becoming a true footballing powerhouse. This team beams itself into the hearts, the minds, and the households of every single Australian. It represents this country in close to its purest form. It's not just because they all wear green and gold. It's because they reach out and engage with so many different communities. And it's high time that we capitalise on that popularity. We need a long-term plan. I'm not talking 5 years, not talking 10, 15, and I'm certainly not talking 20 years. I'm talking about something bigger and better than this governing body has ever laid its mind to. We need a clear objective. And when we have that clear objective, then we will be able to realise our potential. We all know what happens when we don't have a road to follow. We know what happens when we don't have a clear objective. Greed and self-interest seizes the muscle of logic. We've seen it happen before our very eyes. Greed clouds judgment. And self-interest, as we know, is the enemy of progress. With a clear objective, with deep thought, deep ambition, and a willingness to be bold, we can dispel, at least in part, the greed and self-interest that has caused us to stutter at our final hurdle. So enough talk. Let's see the plan for our future. And for the last time on Talking Tildas, signing off, finally, I've been your host, Nicholas Rupolo. Don't worry, we're not going anywhere. We'll see you very soon. Take care. Goodbye.